The Yankees were not able to win the first game of their series against the Baltimore Orioles, falling 4-3 despite a late comeback. And, there are a number of storylines to discuss when involving this game. And I think if there's one place I want to start, it's with Will Warren. And it was a shaky outing for him. 3 1/3, 6 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, but 4 earned runs. He has been a tough evaluation this year because he has, essentially oscillated between, I wouldn't say elite starts by any means, but solid starts and some really rough outings. And he had some moments, but overall was solid against Arizona, bad against Pittsburgh, solid against San Francisco, bad against Tampa, solid against Cleveland, bad against Baltimore. And I just can't shake the feeling with him that he may be a year away. And I know the Yankees are going to have to figure out what this rotation looks like at some point, and they don't exactly have a wealth of options to replace him or to replace anybody, quite frankly, in that rotation with. But there are things to like for sure. I think when his breaking stuff is on, it is absolutely nasty. And you see flashes of a player that could be a solid middle of the rotation starter for years to come. The problem is he doesn't really have control over those pitches right now. And he's leaving a lot of those breaking balls over the plate. And they're getting hit and getting hit hard. And, that's essentially been an issue for him in almost every start. It's just to the degree in which teams are able to take advantage of it. And, the Baltimore Orioles were able to take advantage of it here. He's not able to get out of the 4th inning. But, it's... ideally, he would be able to go back to AAA and work on some things, maybe come back a little bit later in the year or even, crack the rotation next year. But the Yankees don't really have that kind of flexibility right now. Maybe when Luis Gil comes back, now that, you've got Fried, you've got Rodon, you've got Schmidt, when Gil comes back as well, and then you're kind of trying to figure out who that 5th guy is going to be. That might be the opportunity that you can send him to AAA to give him a chance to kind of finish fine-tuning his repertoire and get him where he needs to be. But, for right now, he's just not quite there yet. Like, you see the flashes, you see what they see in him, but it just looks like a guy that's just here a little too early. He'll pitch again on that homestand. I believe he'll probably pitch next Monday. Against, let me see here. No, he should pitch on Sunday against the Rays in that afternoon game. But just left a lot of stuff over the plate, and it got hit hard in this game. And the Yankees got behind 4-0 after 3 innings. And, they claw back a little bit in the 7th. Judge gets an RBI. The 8th was, they had a couple doubles, back-to-back doubles there. They look like they had something rolling. They bring it to within a 1-run game, but they're just not quite able to get that final run. And they were pretty shut down by Felix Bautista in the 9th inning. But if you want to talk about some positive takeaways from this game, it's really, I think it's the bullpen yet again. They go 4 2/3 scoreless innings out of the pen, allow a grand total of 3 base runners. And we got to see a really good inning from Devin Williams, who, has been demoted from that closer role. It was in lower leverage situations, but given the offense for the Yankees score in the 8th, he had him coming in a fairly decent situation, down 1, trying to just keep the lead, keep the deficit at 1 heading into the 9th inning, and he was able to do that with a pretty uneventful, and I mean that in a good way, an uneventful inning from him. But yeah, it's another case of just I hate to keep going back to this theme because, again, I feel like a broken record. But when I say the Yankees will go as far as their starter rotation takes them, this is what I mean. You got 10 hits in this game. You got almost 5 full scoreless innings from the bullpen, but you lost because of your starter. And I know you're saying, well, teams can do that all the time. I get it. It's not exactly, revolutionary to say that starting pitching is important. But for the Yankees, it is the big question mark. It is the big concern because they are making contact. They're getting on base. Their bullpen, for the most part, has been really good. They've had some hiccups like anybody would, but for the most part, has been really good. Their ability to win or lose games has almost exclusively, in these last few weeks, fallen on what the starting pitcher does. And it's just something that you're going to have to deal with all season long for this team. And you do wonder if they're going to hit the market and give themselves an opportunity to add another starter, and not just the guy you throw in the rotation, but a top half of the rotation type of starter, whether it's in May, June, or near the deadline in July. But it's definitely something that I think that they're going to need. In addition to a right-handed third baseman. They need another bat in this lineup, and they need another right-handed bat in this lineup. Again, that's not breaking news. We've been talking about that since spring training, but those are still 2 areas of need for this team. And you take a look ahead, what's coming for New York. They're going to play the next 2 games again against Baltimore, both night games as well. Carlos Rodon's going to be on the mound for Game 2 of the series, hoping to keep up his momentum. And then Game 3, Carlos Carrasco. But if I do want to say something about the lineup a little bit tonight, and I think it was the early swings and misses, Sagano came into this game with a grand total of 9 strikeouts in 28 innings, and then struck out 8 Yankees in 5, while only walking 1 and allowing 5 hits. This was Sagano's best start of his brief MLB career so far. And the Yankees struck out at a rate that no other team in those first few starts has against him. And, then they got behind the 8 ball a little bit. They clawed back, and then they just, they ran out of outs, as is going to happen. But it's tough to get upset when the lineup does fight back as hard as it did late in the game. It's hard to look at yes, they could have done more. Yes, they should have made more contact early in this game. But the story is still Will Warren, and the story is still not getting what they needed from him and relying on Ryan Yarbrough, who's been eating up innings for them when they've needed him to out of the pen, and he did it again here. And then obviously Devin Williams to pitch the 8th inning. It's just I'm struggling to find words here because it's, if you're going to predict the way the Yankees are going to lose ball games, this was kind of the game plan that you would think. Strike out a lot early, fall behind due to starting pitching, probably claw back late because your bullpen kept you in the game, but you just couldn't overcome the early struggles. And that's really what happened here. So I think if you were going to design like the way the Yankees are most susceptible to lose a baseball game in 2025, you kind of saw the blueprint here in the series opener against Baltimore. Now, you have a chance again to come back tomorrow or I guess today when you're listening to this and even up the series. Rodon has a chance to stack some good starts together and really put the team back on his shoulders. And you still have, aside from Devin Williams, all of your high leverage arms rested, which is good news for the bullpen. You'll get Ben Rice back in the lineup. So, like, you were coming off a doubleheader, and I know, there's a little bit of fatigue, and maybe that played a factor in the way the hitting started early. But it was a disappointing loss, as all losses are. But it's disappointing in the sense that it's like, damn, they kind of lost the exact way you would expect them to lose, and that is what ended up happening here. But we'll see what they end up doing. We'll see if they bounce back. But in other news, the Yankees had a couple of news updates. Luis Gil and Jonathan Loaisiga both had updates. Luis Gil is set to begin his throwing program. He started it on Sunday, And so there's not really a timeline yet for him, but he is getting ready. Giancarlo Stanton has no update. Just he continues to make some progress, but there's not a timeline or an update. Jonathan Loaisiga is a few weeks away. They're going to build him back up. They're going to have him appear in back-to-back games. And, Aaron Boone's talked about how he doesn't seem as a quote-unquote strictly a one-inning reliever. So they're going to really try to build him back up before they add him back into the bullpen news. Scott Efros is starting the process of beginning to throw live, and Marcus Stroman's still dealing with a knee problem. So there's not a timeline on really any of these, exact timeline on really any of these guys, except the kind of the ambiguous, quote, a few weeks on Jonathan Loaisiga. I mean, the reinforcements are coming, but it's not necessarily coming soon. And I said the bullpen's been fine. Not that they can't use a guy like Loaisiga, who, again, when he's healthy and on his game, can be a dominant, high leverage back end of the bullpen and even multi-inning reliever for them. That is a very nice piece to have in your bullpen. You can never have enough good pitching. Trust me. Whether it's starters or relievers, you can never have enough good pitching. But yeah, as far as the rotation goes, and as far as, what is Will Warren's long-term future in the rotation, Carlos Carrasco's future in the rotation, to be determined. Heel said he felt good after his throwing program on Sunday, but we don't have a timeline on him yet. We talked about no timeline on Stroman, so we'll see. But the Yankees are kind of getting there, and they're going to probably hear sometime between now and Memorial Day weekend have some interesting roster decisions they need to make, particularly with the 13 pitchers they keep up on the 26-man roster. So we will see what they end up doing there. We will see if they can bounce back and even this series at one game apiece Tuesday at Camden Yards. And no matter what happens there, and no matter what other injury or updates. Oh, and by the way, there's one more update. I almost forgot. Jazz Chisholm will not serve as suspension for the game that he got thrown out and then tweeted from the clubhouse. They came to some sort of a deal, is the way it was worded, and he will not get a suspension. So I do wonder if there was a fine, an apology, or whatever that had to go into that. But that is all the updates on the Yankee side of things, and now it's all about baseball and getting back to the field and getting Carlos Rodon to see if he can stack some good starts together, get the Yankees back on track, and even up this series with Baltimore.